Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, dear colleagues, morning again. It's my great honor and pleasure to introduce and to invite Mr. Dionizy Smoleń, Director for Public Sector and partner PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers. He will be chairing and moderating our panel discussion on financing Ukraine reconstruction. Dionizy, thank you so much for your great effort to co-organize this session, this panel discussion, and for supporting us for a few weeks. We invited excellent guests, practitioners and experts to discuss today with you. So I hope you will enjoy the session and a great panel discussion in a few moments. Dionizy, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tomasz. It is my real pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Dear panelists, dear audience, thank you for joining us here for the panel discussion on this really important topic on financing Ukraine's reconstruction with a special focus on trade and investment issues. Let me welcome everybody present. My name is Dionizy Smoleń, I'm moderator, and it is my honor to act as a moderator of this meeting. Let me now introduce our distinguished panelists. It is my real pleasure to welcome Danko, Professor of the International Business at the National Technical University in Kharkiv. Taras, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Taras, we really appreciate your presence despite really huge problems with access to energy, access to internet. We really appreciate your presence. Let me say a few words about Taras, about our special guest from Ukraine. Taras Danko is a professor of international business at National Technical University in Kharkiv. He heads International Business Laboratory, specializing in Fourth Industrial Revolution in the emerging market context. He is an elected chair of the board at the Ukrainian Association for Management Development and Business Education. As a civil activist, he is actively involved in the initiatives aiming at European integration of Ukraine, local technology clusters development, and the internationalization of Kharkiv. Also, he is an expert at the Team Europe-Ukraine project and the author of the Kharkiv Going Global initiative. It is my pleasure to welcome the panelists. Let me welcome Marcin Kościński, Executive Director in ING Bank. Thank you very much for your presence. Thank you. Let me introduce Michał Kucharczyk, Deputy Director responsible for Export Center in the Polish Agency for Investment and Trade. And I would like to welcome also Tomasz Prucnal, CFO at Erkado company. Let me say a few words about organization of our panel. The discussion will consist of 2 rounds of questions, followed by answers to questions from the audience. Dear audience, your input to our discussion is really important, so I will be really grateful for preparation some questions during the discussion panel, and I promise in the final part of the panel to ask also your questions. There are 2 aspects of the panel discussion which you will find reflected in the 2 rounds of questions. In the first round of questions, we would like to concentrate on answering the question, what are the real challenges regarding redevelopment of Ukraine? We know that the needs are huge, immense, even immense, and they are still growing due to ongoing war. But we should a little bit go into details regarding the scale, priorities, and key areas regarding redevelopment. In the second round of the discussion panel, I would like to suggest to be focus a bit more on concrete mechanism and instrument of supporting reconstruction of Ukraine, with special focus also on involvement of Polish entrepreneurs in the process of redevelopment of Ukraine. I mean also cooperation between Ukraine and Poland and companies from both countries. And during preparation to the panel discussion with our panelists and with Tomasz as the organizer of this session, we were of the opinion that it is impossible during such a session to answer all questions. But if in the course of this debate we manage to identify key questions or key issues that need to be answered in the near future, then I think that the discussion will be considered as useful and fruitful. Let me open the first round of questions, and let me ask the first question to our special guest, to Professor Taras Danko. Taras, what are the main challenges to the reconstruction of Ukraine? What are the main needs? We will be really grateful for sharing with us your point of view as a starting point for our discussion. Taras, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dionizy. I hope you hear me well, right?
Yes, we hear you well.
Yeah. So first of all, you can see that I am not the best. Or let's put it like this: you get not the best version of me, because for the last almost 24 hours I am without electricity, heat, and water. So after this one more round of missiles that Russia terrorists sent all over Ukraine, and I think that this is a good prologue for what we deal with, because at our initial conversation we were just considering time frame. What time are we talking about? Are we talking about the post-war period, or are we talking about what is happening right now? And I think that this development of the last date, for instance, and my appearance unshaved and unwashed to you suggests that perhaps we need to see it as a two phases approach. First, we need to have a clear plan how we keep up, how we manage to respond to the current needs of reconstruction of Ukraine in terms of its critical infrastructure, because it's obvious that Russia has they declared it. They just want to ruin life here, civilized life here, in order for Ukrainians perhaps. They also say it to run away. So they were talking about the cities like Kharkiv on the state TVs, that let's give them 24 hours to get away, and then we will just wipe out the city, or I don't know, infrastructure of it. It means to me very practical. It means, where should Ukrainians go? They will go to the western regions, or maybe those who can pass the border to European Union, then they have to run from Russian missiles to Europe. So the question is really if we can support the current the infrastructure, critical infrastructure, electricity, services, utilities, logistics, internet, on the level that will allow for civilians, Ukrainian civilians, to survive this winter and to stay in Ukraine. So this is one critical aspect. And of course, another critical aspect is what will follow after the war, because we all believe that Ukraine will prevail, Europe will prevail, civilized world will prevail, democracy will prevail, because we all stand for the same values, and we do not give up, not because of our own stubbornness, but because this is really we see that here is the test for the world, for the future of the world happening right now. So we hope that all of us will be able to pass it successfully. Ukraine will prevail, we will prevail, and after that, of course, we will have to face the reconstruction of the territories that suffered from the war and infrastructure that suffered of the war, like, first of all, the territories that were occupied, like, for instance, Kherson, or parts of Kharkiv region that were occupied, and now we just do not have, people cannot live normally there. Even Kharkiv seems heaven to them. And we also need how to economically reboost Ukraine, because of course we want Ukrainians who have fled their homes, they all want to return back, or majority, I know majority wants to return back, and we need to do everything possible so that they return back and can have a normal life here in terms of jobs, labor market, and that's why this is second part. So how we will deal after the war with the critical infrastructure, and how we will deal after the war with economy in general, economy of Ukraine. I think that's it for the moment. And if you have any immediate questions, I can respond. Otherwise,
thank you very much, Taras. Thank you for illustrating us two perspectives, short-term perspective related to very urgent and very important current needs in terms of redevelopment, really crucial for the people to live, and also long-term perspective concerning systematic approach towards redevelopment of Ukraine. Let me come back to the previous session and ambassadors talks about, on the one hand, how to survive winter on this very current challenges to be met, and on the other hand, having vision of the future. So we will definitely tackle both issues during today's discussion. Thank you very much, Taras, for your first speech. And let me ask Marcin Kościński, Executive Director in ING Bank. Marcin, what's in your opinion key factors for the success of Ukrainians' reconstruction? Very general question, but we should start from the general issues, and after that we will go into details.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I think it's still a little bit too early to determine what is going to happen next, because as Taras said, we should still keep in mind that there are two phases. The first one is going to somehow finish, and we all hope, I guess, that it's going to finish earlier than later. There is going to be some kind of a peace agreement or a peace treaty, whatever, and the second phase is going to be right after the war. And what we all know, I guess, that it's the situation of Ukraine after the first stage is still going to be very difficult, and it's going to be complex. And I guess that Europe, at least for the last, I don't know, 70 years, has not seen situation like this. It's not only about the infrastructure, it's about the future of the nation, it's the future of the economy, it is the future of the place of Europe in the world. If Ukraine is going to be more to the east, or it's going to be more to the west. But as we don't know what is going to happen, I guess it is. I like to think about such very difficult and complex issues, like as if it was some kind of a business plan. Of course, it's a huge simplification. Of course, it's not exactly the same story, but if you are thinking about the methodology and the tools, it is still more or less the same. When we have some companies coming for financing to the bank, we try to somehow shape the future and realize what is going to happen and what needs to be done actually to make that happen. And there are three pillars that I would suggest that we take into consideration. The first one, if you want to think about the future of a company, of a nation, of the society, economy, whatever, first you need to have a plan. It needs to be a comprehensive one. It needs to be a full plan, tackling all the critical issues. The second one will be the funding. How are you going to do that, like in terms of financing? And the third actually would be the people with whom you are going to do that. How are you going to motivate people, and who is going to be the executor of the idea, which was number one? And just a few words about the three pillars from the perspective of reconstruction of Ukraine. The first one, a plan. Of course, the situation is very difficult, and everybody is talking about the infrastructure. Everybody is talking about how Ukraine is going to be rebuilt. But I think that the topic is a little bit more, let's say, worth going into details and a little bit deeper, because although the background of what's happening right now in Ukraine is very dramatic, there is still a chance that Ukraine is going to use it as an advantage in the future. It's a unique chance, of course. Once again, the background and the reasons for what's happening are really dramatic, but it's a unique chance for the economy and society to reshape and try to think what is going to be advantage of Ukraine itself and the Ukrainian economy in the future. We don't have that many chances like an economist, I don't know, like the Polish one. We had the chance at the beginning of the 90s, but that's the momentum. I would encourage everybody to think a little bit wider and saying, okay, that's a good chance to think what is going to be the competitive advantage of the economy and how the society is going to look like in the future. It's not about the plan, like how are you going to rebuild, I don't know, bridges or junctions, whatever, but it's about something more. The second one is funding. There needs to be a comprehensive funding. It doesn't matter if it's going to be, I don't know, one fund which is going to be supported by, I don't know, many institutions all around the world, or it's going to be just, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 separate funds. It doesn't matter actually, but from the perspective of the global interest and the support of Ukraine, there needs to be a comprehensive funding. If it doesn't happen, then we all have a problem, because we'll be only talking about some specific parts, but there is no plan. I mean, referring to point one, there is no tool to somehow finance this comprehensive plan and reshaping the future of Ukraine. So I think that's crucial, and that is a huge role of institutions like IMF, WB, EU, and others. And either they create one idea or separate ones, it doesn't matter. But I would say that from the responsibility of every nation, civilized nations, and as Taras said, we should all contribute to the funding of this comprehensive idea. And the third one is about people. That vision in number one needs to be so motivating for the Ukrainian people to really engage, because you can have a great idea, you can have great funding, but if you don't engage people, if you don't show the future, if you don't say, okay, in 10 years' time, that is going to be a great open society, like people open to the Western world, people really focusing on languages, on what's going to on what's happening in the world. If you don't have that feeling, then you will probably execute, but not that quickly, not that I would say immensely. So I would like to encourage everybody to think about the vision, because the vision actually motivates people, and that is going to be the future of the Ukrainian, and a huge chance in front of the Ukrainian people.
Marcin, thank you. Thank you very much for your input. I think that let me use what you said in the next part of the discussion, because let me repeat it. You mentioned firstly vision, followed by comprehensive plan or strategy. Secondly, comprehensive funding, and thirdly, people or resources necessary to implement the plan. Thank you very much. And now, Marcin, it's over to you. Michał, sorry, it's over to you. Let me ask Michał Kucharczyk, Deputy Director in the Polish Agency for Investment and Trade. Michał, I would like to ask you about the perspective of the Polish public sector or Polish administration on the issue of reconstruction of Ukraine. Also, in the specific context of the task you are responsible for, I mean mobilization and organization, but Polish administration companies ready to rebuild Ukraine. If you can tell us something more about it, it will be, I think, excellent input to the discussion.
Yes. Thank you for this question. Maybe I will start from a few sentences about my company, PAIH. What is PAIH? PAIH is a Polish investment and trade agency. We are a government agency. Our supervisor is a Ministry of Development and Technology, but we work with a Ministry of Foreign Affairs also. So we can say that we are an administration. We have over 50 offices globally. We serve over 70 markets, and we are a part of a PFR group. My department in PAIH is for helping small and medium companies, especially in export. When the war has started, we had a lot of meetings in the ministry, but the topic was always the same. How can we help in this situation? Firstly, I want to say something about events and consultations. What we've done. Firstly, in June this year, the Ministry of Development and Technology has launched registration for the cooperation program for preparations for the resumption for export and post-war reconstruction of Ukraine. PAIH is an operator of this program. Results of this program is a list with 1,500 companies, Polish companies, which are interested in exporting, investing, and cooperating with Ukrainian contractors on the basis of the subcontracting applied for the recruitment. Second one, in August, we organize a really big event, the forum, which name was Rebuild Ukraine Industry Consultation, which was held at the PGE National Stadium with the participation of the Minister of Development and Technology, Mr. Waldemar Buda, and also the Ambassador of Ukraine to Poland, Mr. Wasyl Zwarycz. Nearly 700 enterprises participated in. In the first part of the forum, we talked about the government support tools and opportunities to participate in the international tenders for the reconstruction of Ukraine. In second part, industry consultation devoted to the post-war reconstruction of Ukraine were held. The participations were mainly representatives of the construction sector, the manufacturers of machinery and equipment, but also representatives of industries such as IT, ICT, food, medical, and automotive. Consultation reports containing the entrepreneurs' demand have been written down and will be submitted to the relevant ministries. In October, we organized with the Warsaw School of Economics the Forum Polish-Ukrainian Business Days, also with the Minister of Technology, the Ukrainian ambassador, Mr. Zvaryj, and our members of the boards. And we have a lot of thematic panels were held devoted to the key issue related to the functional to Ukrainian economy and economic change with Poland after the conflict in the Ukraine. Now I will tell something about the completed activities, but not the events and the consultation, but in the real life, as I can say it. We created a team under the working name Project U. The purpose of the team's work is to monitor the situation, identify the potential risks that may affect broadly understood business, and act to limit the consequences for business in connection to the war in Ukraine. Since we launched the program, we have recorded over 3,000 applications. Second activities is a co-work space under the name Newkraine. This is our space, a PAIK space in Warsaw. In this space, we can, the space is for 15 Ukrainian companies in the same time. Ukrainian companies can use our office space in tenement at Bagatela 20. In Warsaw, the program is designed to help them after the relocation to Poland. The space has been adapted and equipped, and we have provided permanent service in Ukrainian on site. The support offered is free for 3 months. The interest from the Ukrainian business is really high. Right now, we have full co-work space, and I think it's a good situation. Market sanction alerts, guides for entrepreneurs. Our experts in Kyiv monitor the situation in Ukraine, regulations, restrictions, as well as bans and orders affecting trade cooperation with Ukraine. On our website, information materials are published, so everyone can find it because it's for free, because we are a pro bono. Providing space for a function of the consulting center of the Ministry of the Digital Transformation of Ukraine, DIA Business. It's the same space on Bagatela Street, and they can cooperate with Ukrainian companies. So this is our main activities in this year, but we are prepared to do a lot of things in few months next month, and I think that's all from me.
Thank you very much, Michał. I think what you said perfectly fits into the third pillar mentioned by Marcin, namely people. And you on the one hand, you mentioned mobilization of Polish companies in the context of redevelopment, rebuilding of Ukraine, but also on the other and support for Ukrainian companies on the other hand. So I think we will have a good opportunity in the next round of questions to go into details.
Yes.
Thank you, Michał. And an interesting issue in the context of people, by the way, is that we have among us in the panel also representative of the company. So Mr. Tomasz Prucnal, CFO at Erkado. And Tomasz, I think it will be also good to hear your point of view as an entrepreneur who is now present in Ukraine. Despite the war, I think. So I would like to ask you for your experience, for sharing with us your experience related to cooperation with Ukraine. What does your company's activity in Ukraine look like during the war?
Okay, it's my great pleasure to speak here today. Erkado is one of the 3 biggest door producers in Poland. To start off, I would like to speak with you and share with you our unique experience and how Ukrainian citizens can benefit from Erkado history. We set up in 1976, and Erkado has grown from a family-owned business to a large corporation which employs 800 people. We export mainly to the European Union and the United States. We have also a lot of customers in Africa, South Korea, and Middle East. We are located in southeast of Poland, so we know how many problems Poland and the neighboring countries had in 1990s, when our economy was completely destroyed when Soviet Union left. At the moment, Poland is a part of European Union and NATO. We have currently the 23rd, the largest economy in the world. But to start off with, I would like to talk about our strategic location to Ukraine. We have helped them a lot during the first day of the war, and some of the refugees were employed by our company. Now we should be thinking how Polish and Ukrainian businesses can work together to rebuilding of Ukraine economy. It's a very important issue that business will be responsible for rebuilding of the country. But the idea for the future is to build closer relationship between Polish and Ukrainian businesses. Erkado has cooperated with Ukrainian businesses. We have very good relationship, and we know exactly what is the main issue for the local community in small Ukrainian cities. When war started, many Ukrainian companies lost their suppliers, and we have helped them by creating a special products for Ukrainian markets. And we've built very good relationship because we created a business-to-business platform to making orders online and publish the catalog in Ukrainian languages. So Erkado invests a lot of energy in teaching our Ukrainian partnership about our products. And in that way, we build very good relationship. For Erkado, it's very important skills. Skills on how installing doors and building products. So we created a skill center for our customers, and we invited all our customers every year to our factory, and we show them our newest products and share with them our technology. And in that way, we build very good relationship. So we would like to develop our good relationship with another Ukrainian businesses, because we are one of the leaders in export doors to the countries in Central East Europe. Thanks.
Thank you, Tomasz. That's really interesting. Can you tell us a bit more about the nature of cooperation with Ukrainian counterparts, with Ukrainian companies? Are there contractors or subcontractors for your factory or company?
So when the war started, our currently customers lost their suppliers, as I said. So there were many distributors, because they sell doors and different building products, and they buy, I think, that products from Ukrainian markets, but Ukrainian producers stop producing.
Thank you, Tomasz. I hope we will go into details regarding the future cooperation and your, maybe even your company's participation in the redevelopment of Ukraine under the next round of questions. Thank you so much. We have just completed the first round of questions. Thank you so much. Let us move on to the second round, and let me come back to Taras Danko. Taras, we have some ideas identified during the first round of questions concerning the general approach towards redevelopment, reconstruction of Ukraine. But the fundamental question, I think, for you is how should the support around the reconstruction of Ukraine be directed?
Yeah, yes, Dionizy. And first of all, I would like to underline that really the words from Marcin about the vision for Ukraine. It is important that we hear these words from banker, from finance person, and when we listen in many cases to politicians, to general public, journalists, they sometimes are very skeptical about vision, about clear concept where we're heading to, and they always want to talk about money. But it's interesting and important for all of them to remember that really when people who do finance, who are investors, they are more not about money but about the vision, because well, that's the way money works. First, you need to understand where do you invest and why do you invest, and what will be the payoff, and what are the conditions for that to happen, and then you invest. So as for me, I think that that the vision of Ukraine, and I think that part of our conversation, I think, could be about this vision as well, because if we're talking about, for instance, Polish companies participating in reconstruction, rebuilding of Ukraine, why? What do they aspire to? What institution? What advantages do they hope they will have as well? So it's not only about helping Ukraine, but it's about how their business might benefit from being part of that. And I think the more businesses in the world will clearly understand how doing business in Ukraine, with Ukraine, participation in the rebuilding of Ukraine will be beneficial, valuable to them. If they will see the share value of this, then I think I agree with this statement that really we will have more robust and development and more robust results. My perspective is, of course, that first of all, I'm from technical university, and I'm kind of so I'm I believe in the future that technological change will play is playing already, but it will play even a more important role in the future of the world, in the future of the Europe. So my perspective is that Ukraine has to become an important actor within the European high technology space, within European, of course, research educational area, but high technology space. Ukraine, if Ukraine will be able to support, to become an important actor of European value chains, then Europe will benefit from that. Otherwise, otherwise Ukraine will be liability, and we want Ukraine to be an asset. We want Ukraine to be part of competitiveness of Europe, and of course of competitiveness of our European partners. This is one aspect, and another aspect of my vision for Ukraine is, of course, sustainability, because this is a challenge for Europe. We have Green Europe aspirations and many other discussions on the sustainability of Europe are going on right now. So while reconstruction of Ukraine, we have to be aware that, or to secure that Ukraine will become an important pillar, let's put it like this, of European sustainability, with corresponding technologies and so forth taking place here. For instance, alternative energy, because we see how Ukraine right now is reliant on nuclear energy, but for instance, alternative sources of energy are not strongly developed in Ukraine. So this is about the vision, and about, I think that funding and people, yes, they go together. And from my perspective, we need to have these clear mechanisms of coordination between all parties involved, but at the same time, it should not. It should be multi-level and direct relationships. So we need to see or to have the mechanism where businesses can work directly with businesses, regions directly with regions, universities with universities, and people to people. But at the same time, they can apply for financing. They can apply for different sources of financing with their projects, and especially it will be important to have this capacity of all the consortiums, including Ukrainian part of those consortiums, to develop financially sound and feasible financial plans for their projects. So this financial literacy will be important for Ukraine as for others participating in this, but this should have to be part of the coordinated, but at the same time quite flexible mechanisms of support. And secondly, I think that Poland should play great role in that, because Poland is our neighbor. Poland is one of the main partners, economic trade partners of Ukraine for years. And Poland have experience and expertise in Ukraine, including understanding the problems of Ukraine, issues that we have. So basically, I think that even now, before the war is finished, I highly also appreciate what Michał said and Tomasz said, that you are involved right now in many initiatives, round tables, and projects that build this expertise of rebuilding Ukraine right now, and this expertise should be shared. I think that many other countries of the world will lack this, so maybe they will need from you some kind of reboot course how to work with Ukraine. Maybe you could be leaders of the consortiums of global partnerships where your expertise will be an important part in helping all other partners to find the best way how to be the most efficient, effective in the future projects in Ukraine. My belief, from what I see, from what I know, for instance, about Ukrainian IT sector, from what I see in Ukraine at the ground, is that Ukrainian society, Ukrainian business, Ukrainian intellectuals, let's put it like this, are really ready to aspire to this vision that I've suggested, and well, we hope that this will attract many excellent companies from the world to make a difference here, and maybe also to offer some important best practices that could be shared elsewhere in the world, because Ukraine is not the only place that suffers. Yes, it's Europe. Yes, we
Taras, have you finished? Yes.
Am I still there? Do you still hear me?
Yes, we hear you. We
Well,
hear
but-
as well.
So if you do so, Ukraine is not the only place that needs help. So this experience of reconstruction should be used in other parts of the world as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Taras, so much. Thank you for referring for all three pillars. Firstly, vision and plan, reconstruction, and at the same time, unique chance for economic transformation of Ukraine and increasing competitiveness of Ukraine. Secondly,
Yes,
funding.
yes, I did. Yeah.
Right. Secondly, funding, and you put our attention on the importance of coordination of cooperation of different donors, international organization, and thirdly, people. You raise in importance of also transferring expertise and importance of Poland's Ukrainian cooperation. Taras, sorry for that, but I have really tough question concerning vision. As Ambassador Piekło said, vision of the future is really crucial. But Taras, how to deal with such a long-term vision and plan? How to work on it? The question is, on the one hand, very tough and very general, but I will be really grateful for your comments. How to start working on long-term vision?
Well, first of all, Ukraine is the candidate state for European Union right now, and this is that Ukraine, as I understand, have to elaborate to deliver some vision. Well, how to work on that? That's a great question, actually. I think that it has to be a two-way road. So on one hand, the Ukrainian community, including politicians, I think have to take more time explaining it, and I think in particular that President Zelensky is actually good visionary, because in his he talks about the needs of Ukraine right now, but he always reminds us about the perspective. So I think that his team, and from what I see, observe, they have important visionaries in his team. So on one hand, we need to ask these questions from his team, and they're great speakers, so they respond to the questions. So, and I think that we want to see if their answers will be really coherent. If they are, then we can trust their vision, and if their views of the future of Ukraine will and are the same as, for instance, I have, or high technology businesses from Ukraine have, then maybe it will suggest that really this is what is the general consensus in Ukraine, because we understand that general consensus is Ukraine should be between parliament, between government, and between society, if there is a consensus on the main issues and we see it, then we really believe that that's what they are about, what really motivates Ukraine. And on the other hand, I think that we need people like you asking those tough questions, but maybe also engaging in discussion with us, in some case romantic dreamers, but at the same time engaging with us on the real implementation of that. And I hope that after the war, just a very practical thing, that after the war, more people from Ukraine, like especially, and I think this will be also important, the people that are now serving in the army, the people who defend Ukraine right now at the front, they will hopefully after the war be able to travel, to see, to participate in such events like we have right now in FACE in Poland, in Germany. And it will be also important that at the place we are engaged in this conversation. I am going to finish right now, not to save your time, but I believe, I strongly believe in communication. So I believe that without communication of the stakeholders, and important stakeholders are, as I said, people who right now fight for all of us. So through that conversation, through this communication, we will clarify the vision. And I think that the more we will trust this vision, the more sound will be our financial plans for the future.
Great. Thank you for using this word trust. It sounds like trusted vision, elaborated in the process of discussion, communication, consensus, as you mentioned. Thank you so much, Taras. And now let's focus a bit more on the third pillar concerning people. And let me ask the first question under the second round to Michał Kucharczyk from Polish Agency for Investment and Trade. Michał, you have conducted many conversations with Polish companies, willing or even ready to cooperate with Ukrainian companies and ready to participate in the redevelopment of Ukraine. What are the main challenges for Polish companies? Because for sure there are some, as you, Taras, mentioned, there are for sure some opportunities for them, definitely, but there are probably some challenges or even risks. Can you tell us a bit more, Michał, about it, please?
Yes. Thank you for this question. We are talking about people, and firstly, I want to say that we are hiring for a Ukrainian team in our company. So I inviting you to make an application. But about difficulties for Polish business in Ukraine, we mapped problems on the Polish-Ukrainian border, financial problems, tax issues, and transport and logistic problems. Problems on the Polish-Ukrainian border are very long waiting for very long waiting time at the border. Entrepreneurs also reported a problem in the efficient functioning of Polish sanitary services, was on our side. Custom overvaluation, questioning of invoices and export document by Ukrainian customs. They are the problems of the border. Financial problems at wartime banking system and the fixed exchange rate maintained by the National Bank of Ukraine makes statements difficult. Representative offices of Polish entities have no chance for working capital loan in Ukraine. Polish banks do not lend to projects in Ukraine. Ability and limits of exports and investment insurance during the material law. But I want to say that our team is working on these barriers, and I hope that they will step over it. The tax issues. Polish companies operating in Ukraine report a problem with VAT refunds. They inform that the tax offices of Ukraine arbitrarily interpret the provisions of the tax law. Transport and logistics problems. High transport cost. We know that the gas and oil rised, and this is the main problem on this barrier. And that, as I said, we are working on it. We want to help everyone, and I hope that we'll do it. After the difficulties, because it's difficult to say about the barriers, I want to say something about the planned activities in the end of this year and activities in the first month on the next year. So the main activities is to make a catalog of Polish companies interested in participating in the post-war reconstruction of Ukraine. We called it business card of Polish companies. The main purpose of the catalog is to support Polish entrepreneurs in establishing locations with Ukrainian partners and international institutions. We will promote it among Ukrainian and foreign institutions and companies, and we will make it available to government and local government bodies. The catalog will be available in Ukrainian and English. The publication of the first edition of this catalog is scheduled for December this year. So this is the main activity. We prepared also a webinar, ABC of Export training on the Ukrainian market. And this webinar will be in November 29. So first days, 5 days, and I inviting you to take part. If someone want to take part, I will leave my email, and I will send a lot of the details of everything what I say now. Next activity is industry consultation in the energy sector in December. The same industry consultation about the construction sector. We will talk in this consultation. During the industry consultation, we will discuss the scale of damage to infrastructure in Ukraine. We will present the possibilities of cooperation between Polish business and Ukrainian partners, and we will conduct expert workshop. We prepare also participation of PAIH and our companies in a few events, but as I said, I will send details if someone want to take a part. And in 2023, we will focus on the activities on organization. The further industry consultation in a smaller group carries out in Poland and Ukraine. Organization of industry trade mission, incoming and outgoing, and organization of events promoting Polish enterprises.
Thank you. Thank you, Michał, so much. So there are many very concrete obstacles of challenges, but it is also, as you mentioned, the role of public administration to deal with it. And thank you also for raising your readiness to assist also companies, Polish, but also Ukrainian companies. So thank you so much. And I would like to honestly ask the same question to Marcin Kościński from ING Bank, because Marcin, you have also your experience in cooperation with Polish companies, and you probably know to what extent Polish companies are ready to participate in redevelopment of Ukraine. Can you share with us, please, your point of view?
Well, I think it's still not the time. I think the first stage, or this first phase of what's going to happening after the war will really belong to the states. So first of all, there needs to be some kind of infrastructure. There needs to be stability. And once the stability is achieved, I wouldn't really worry about the private sector, because they will just do that. They will just follow the money. They will follow the funds, and that is quite easy, I would say. Of course, there are some issues which I will just tackle in a minute. But I would say that the whole project should be much more ambitious, because it's not only about how Polish, German, American companies are going to be active in that market in the rebuilding of Ukraine, reconstructing of Ukraine, but it's mostly about how much new value is going to be delivered to the Ukrainian economy. It's quite easy for any European construction company, I don't know, to rebuild a bridge, to rebuild some infrastructure. But I think that's what I mean when I say it should be more ambitious, because that should also enrich or just make a little bit better the economy of Ukraine. So I guess they should really promote in those programs structures like JVs with Ukrainian companies, because once you reconstruct a bridge, that's okay. But if you do it with some partnership with a Ukrainian company, it means that the value is going to still be there. It is going to enrich the Ukrainian economy, and that should be, I guess, the part of the whole project. So coming back to the private sector, that's why I said currently there are no conditions to let's say to take part in the reconstruction. In the bank, we used to call it. We don't have the risk situation right now, because if you are talking about the risk, you can somehow name the risk, you can measure the risk, you can find mitigants to the risk. But if you are talking about uncertainty, it's a completely different story. You never know where the situation is going to go to. So from the perspective of today, there is no chance for the private sector to get involved. In the first stage, I guess it could be feasible for some, let's say, high-risk funds counting on some huge returns in a close future. That's also okay. But once the situation is stable, I guess there are some, I would say, tiny or less tiny factors that should be taken into account. I think the first one is actually the money is going to come from the West, I guess, and there should be some support to the Ukrainian economy to distribute the money in a transparent way, because that is going to tens or hundreds of billions of dollars or euros. And well, as I said during the first part of the panel, there has never been in the modern history of Europe, there has never been a situation like this, having so much money to be spent in such let's say short time. So Ukraine should be supported, and that is also a part of the stability from the private sector perspective. I want to be sure that the money is spent properly, that I'm taking part in some kind of a tender, the money is there, and it should be distributed in a fair and proper way. It's not such an easy task. In the European Union, we used to have examples like, I don't know, it was Bulgaria, I say, as far as I recall. They really had issues and problems. So I think we should do some lesson learned and also support Ukraine with this specific issue. And once we tackle that, I think there is going to be created a lot of space for private capital to get engaged, and not only for companies like Tomasz getting in touch with everyday deliveries to Ukraine, but that's very valuable. But also meaning the companies like long-term investments. If someone wants to set up a shopping mall, a production plant, it's always, like every single time, is going to be a long-term investment. And also for companies like the constructions which I mentioned. And just one small remark. There is a huge role from the perspective of the Polish economy and Polish companies. There is a huge role of institutions like PAIH or KUKA, which is the foreign trade insurance company, because their support for Polish companies may reduce the risks, which will anyway somehow appear in the horizon. So that was the same story as with the BGK, the state-owned bank, which took place at the very beginning of COVID. It wasn't actually financial support for Polish companies, but it was a huge scheme of guarantees which stabilized the whole economy for the coming 2 years. So that was a great tool. So I would really love to see that kind of support for Polish companies. And all in all, I guess there is a clear path to somehow strengthen the Ukrainian economy.
Marcin, thank you. Thank you so much. It was really inspiring. As I mentioned at the very beginning of the panel, one of the objectives of the panel is to identify good questions. And I think one of the good questions is the question, what value can my company add or give to reconstruction of Ukraine? What could be my input as an entrepreneur? Thank you very much. And the last question to Tomasz. Tomasz, what opportunities do you see in the context of your participation in reconstruction of Ukraine, but also what risks do you identify with it from the perspective of entrepreneur?
So first of all, one mechanism which can possible and support reconstruction of Ukraine is creating a new approach to a business. Polish and Ukrainian citizens have the same ethnic roots. We have Slavic culture, which is very similar and join us. So we understand what would Ukrainians feel at the moment, but countries from West not exactly. So at this point, I would like to talk about our shared border, which should be our advantage. So many Ukrainian people live at the moment in Poland. So we should use networking connections and creating a special trade agreement for cooperating between Poland and Ukrainian businesses. And makes Będzie miło. Okay, so I would like to say that we should use the special advantage, our shared border, and creating a trade agreement between cooperation between Polish and Ukrainian companies. It makes that trade between our countries will be very easy and faster. And in that way, we can avoid many problems with documentation with a border and then trades. Also, the second very important issue is how to create a shorter supply chain and avoiding lack of building materials, like it was 2 years ago after COVID-19 lockdown. So we would like to encourage our partnership from Ukraine to invest in local distribution center. Those companies would be our approved point of sales. We transfer our products, our technology, and smart ideas. In that way, we can create many jobs in Ukraine, and local community will really manage the process of rebuilding of Ukraine. I would like to say also about risks. In my opinion, the biggest risk is geopolitical financial stability of the country. But in daily business, there are also some risks like payments and delivery risks. And we can avoid that kind of risk only by a very close relationship and using banking products like bank guarantee, letter of credits. So in that way, we can level of risk will be smaller and Ukrainian partnership will build our trust. The second very important issue is to continue working on public institutions like schools, hospitals. So it's big challenge to safety and social security system in Ukraine. So we should focus on rebuilding schools, hospitals, kindergartens, and local government offices, because those buildings are necessary to allow local community normal life again. So at the end, I would like to talk about also green reconstruction. Green reconstruction is one of the concepts of post-war reconstruction. Green reconstruction is coherent vision of the development of the economy, society, and state as a whole. At the moment, whole Europe has a problem with price of energy. Whole Ukraine at the moment is without power energy. So the future is based on new kind of energy infrastructure like solar panel farms with energy storage, also wind turbines and high effective cogeneration, because those projects will decrease cost of living, and in that way we can build smart cities in Ukraine. Thanks.
Thank you.
If I could,
Please,
one sentence
course.
at bottom to speech of Tomasz about the networking and B2B session. We are doing a lot of events, and every of them has have a session consist of networking, and after that B2B meetings. So we are. This is our mission to make the business easier.
Yes, of course, we are part of.
Thank you.
We are part of networking which are organized by PAIH. So we have connections, and in that way we also have some relationship with some customers from another countries.
Thank you, Tomasz, for describing us really comprehensive picture of what conditions should be met to be involved in the reconstruction. And thank you, Michał, for your comment as well. So we have just completed the second round of questions. Thank you so much. And as I promised, I would like to move to the questions and answers session. So let me encourage you, dear audience, to ask the question. Yes, can we Mr. Alex Sharov, you raised hand. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed. Do you listen me well?
Yes, we hear you well.
Yeah, actually, I have brief comments, not question, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yes, of course.
I represent the Institute of Economics and Forecasting from Kiev, and we are practically involved in creation of a system or mechanism of financing for post-war recovery of Ukraine. Of course, this is subject for a big report, because there are a lot of issues linked with recovery and financing. But if you don't mind, I just would like focused on couple very important issues, maybe three of them. First of all, I'm absolutely agree, or I would like to mention focus on this problem which was mentioned by Professor Danko. Yes. We have to separate rebuilding and recovery.
Yes.
It used to be done maybe even by two different financial institutions with very good coordination in their activity. It's very important, coordination. Second issue is this what my colleague, because I'm a former investment banker, my colleague from ING, Marek Kościński, if I'm not mistaken, mentioned, this is need for a good comprehensive program. It needs to be financing different business project, as we represent in Lugano, where we represent, I mean, Ukraine represent more than 200 different projects, but which were not united in one program with one aim. It used to be a program of recovery with priorities, with states' priorities, maybe even adopted by the parliament, by the Verkhovna Rada. But of course, it used not to be states program. I mean that it not to be financed from budget. When we will have such a program, then this institution, financing institution, will choose different projects which are in compliance with aim of these programs. And last moment is used with Polish expertise. Our institute prepares such program. Now we prepare a white paper on financing, but in principle we work for program of post-war economic recovery. And we do it with a lot of foreign partners from Australia up to United Kingdom. I think we need a Polish expertise, especially for understanding how local authorities, how different regions can participate, because it exists a risk that if this system will be too much centralized, then we will forget about needs of regions, and then it will be dangerous of big corruption as well. And from this point of view, I suppose that Polish reform for gminy, for economic rights of gmin, can be very useful for Ukraine. And we even welcome participation of if any Polish institution or think tank with such expertise can join to our international syndicate which prepares such program, then it will be very good from my point of view. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharow. It was really valuable input. Let me mention at least that last topic, territorial policy, regional and local policy, and importance of exchanging view and best practices between Polish authorities and Ukrainian. Thank you so much. Next question, please.
Thank you. So my name is Piotr Gabrielczak, and I have a short question to Dr. Kościński, because first of all, you mentioned the issue, which inspired me to ask the question, and also, as you represent the bank, which has sufficient power to influence the market, you actually may have some thoughts about it. So you've mentioned that this situation of rebuilding is a chance to find new advantages for Ukrainian economy, and yet so far we've mostly mentioned the issues of sustainability and energy, and I think that when we think of Ukraine, we all think about energy and agriculture. But do you have any ideas about sectors that might be considered prospective in Ukraine after the rebuilding already, or are you working on it as a bank, for example, about some kind of sectoral policy, which kind of investment you should support? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Marcin, please.
Frankly speaking, as well as I said, it's a little bit too early, and there are no, I would say, specific plans on how we should approach financing of the Ukrainian economy. I guess it is more. I mean, it is more dependent on how Ukrainians think the economy and the society should look like, and then all the investments will just follow. Well, as I said during the second part of the panel, I'm not really worried if the private sector is going to follow, because they just will. That's the nature of private sector. But I think that is, sorry to be that honest, but I think that this is on the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian society to decide what is going to be the advantage. when we look at so many people coming to Poland, they are so engaged, they are so committed, they are so clever, and they are so and the wisdom is there, and the skills are there. They are great at, I would say, tech issues. They are great at IT issues. They are really committed. So I think, like, looking at the trends which are happening globally, and Ukraine is, I would say, huge enough as a society and as economy to be a relevant, important part of the global economy. I think Ukrainian people and Ukrainian society would just have to be brave enough. I would hungry enough, like in terms of getting the value for the future and knowing what are the pros and cons, and it's mostly on them, being supported, of course, by Europe and the US, but shaping the future of the Ukraine, and we'll just follow and be ready to participate.
Marcin, thank you for your answer. Next question, please.
Dear speakers, I want to ask you about some problems which Ukrainian economy had before the war. I mean corruption and oligarchy. I want to know how to deal with these problems which stop Ukrainian economy and social development. And what's your point of view about this issue?
Thank you for the question. Maybe let's collect next questions and answer at the end collectively. Please, next question. Gentlemen, and three additional questions.
I have a question. When the war ends, I hope it will be soon. So many companies want to go to Ukraine to rebuild it, and of course they want to help them and make them live better. But so many want to just make money. And my question is this safe, and is this possible to be under control to avoid the lack of the workers in other cities, for example, Poland? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Please.
The last one, okay. So my name is Danko, and I'm representing Student Science Association Paradigmat. And because the issue of problems with taxation and interpretation of the law were previously mentioned, I would like to ask, are there any ongoing plans or prospects of a legislative bill for tax incentive made by Ukrainian parliament to make the foreign direct investments easier to manage for Polish companies after the war? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last question, at least now, okay. It will be additional one, okay, please.
So I have a question for our speakers. So you, as a person, the people who works with macroeconomics data, macroeconomics analysis in your in your fields. So I would like to ask you, what do you think? As our ambassador said before, that economy will not rebuild; it will be built from zero. And could you or can you predict, for example, 2, 3, 5 years after the war, the approximately level of GDP per capita, or at least nominal values? I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. And last question, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Doug Wood from the European Federation of Energy Traders, and I hope we'll be able to take up some of your very interesting points in the next panel with relation to energy. But if I can ask a similar question, but perhaps in a different way to the way it's been asked previously, as we have spoken mostly about infrastructure in a physical sense. We talked about bridges, and we may talk later about pipelines and wires. But what about it's the business infrastructure? Do we have the proper institutional arrangements in place to satisfy international investors who will wish to come in and put money into Ukraine and be involved in the projects and the knowledge transfer and the financial transfer and so on? What do we have to do to create that business infrastructure to do so?
Thank you very much. So we have 5 questions, and I think enough time. 1 minute per one question. Absolutely, Mr. Dean, I fully agree with you. So let me remember, first question refers to corruption or risk of corruption. Second, concerning the avoiding risk of avoiding people for companies. Third question, tax incentives. Fourth question, GDP predictions. And fifth question, business infrastructure, importance of business infrastructure in the context of attracting investors, etc., etc. So, Taras, maybe let me, Taras, if you can start answering all questions or some of them, please. And after that, Michał, Marcin, Tomasz, please. And Taras, at the same time, let's treat it as a chance for your final speech. Short.
Well, first of all, I'd like to support everything that Alex Sharov said, because really I liked his input, and we don't know each other, but I think that he said exactly what I'm thinking about how we deal with corruption. It's about open access. So we need to have as possible, as I said, multi-level mechanisms of cooperation between and access to financial resources between multiple players from Europe, worldwide, and these will, of course, diminish the corruption. If we would have some bottleneck when some finances are controlled or distributed by some agency, then this might lead to huge problems. This is first. Second, well, labor. I see the question is about labor migration, but well, this is the risk that we have to keep on our map to understand that this is the challenge that we have, and I think that to some extent this is connected to the next question about the GDP. Well, I mean, to what level the Ukrainian doing business in Ukraine or living in Ukraine will be an incentive for workers, for instance, to go from one place in Europe to another place. In particular, in Ukraine, many of us are worried that nobody would be interested to return and work in Ukraine. So you see this. We don't know the real dynamics. Maybe the answer is that we just need to settle some kind of monitoring of these migration movements of labor migration between Ukraine and European Union in the future years, so that if we see something happening that is too risky, then we have to have a mechanism to deal with that. I believe that after the war, maybe in 5 years, Ukrainian GDP might double. So it's like that. And I totally agree that the institutions question maybe is among the crucial for Ukraine. I think that we still have lack of capabilities in policy development, skills, and strategic thinking at the level. At the level of institutions. So Ukrainian society has to gain this expertise. Because we too easily jump to decisions. And sometimes this part of the process when we engage stakeholders in consulting on the future policies, so that those policies are really supported and well thought, we lack that. We're always in a hurry. We want to be faster, but sometimes you can hurry into the trouble if you do not have the right policy mechanisms at the place. And of course, policy mechanisms and institutions, I think they go together. So Ukrainian institutions have to be supported by European Union in terms of learning and gaining such capacity. So that's my general answers to all the questions. I am positive. Just to the final word, I am positive. I am inspired by all the panelists, all the questions that we have, because I see how professional and how really realistic we are in approaching these issues, and this gives me some hope that our efforts will be really translated into good results for Ukraine and Europe and the better world. Thank you.
Thank you, Taras. Thank you so much. We definitely should be optimistic, as you underlined it. Thank you so much, Michał, Marcin, Tomasz. Please give your summary. And by the way, answering the questions.
Firstly, first for all for the discussion, it was a pleasure to be there, to be here, and I will try to answer the last question. So the business infrastructures, in my opinion, is the task for Polish and Ukrainian agencies like PAIH. We should make reports for our government, and after that, Polish and Ukrainian government should sign an agreement with consist of bullets what to do. And I think it could be a first step to make it clearly and transparency. Thank you.
Michał, thank you very much. Marcin, please.
I will just briefly refer to the first question. I think it's a very fair one. I was trying to diplomatically address that question during the second part, mentioning that there needs to be some kind of support. But indeed, that is something which is one of the crucial aspects. Business and money likes stability. So things like corruption and others are in fact unacceptable. So so one of the, let's say, parts or just ways to get the money and get it properly distributed is actually somehow managing that issue, and that is going to be a fact. I don't know nothing about GDP actually, because it depends actually first of all on the vision. It depends on the path of the economy. So I guess the question is fair enough, because it means that it is also going to be motivating for everybody to follow that path, but it's still a little bit too early. And just one small remark on the fifth one. I will just give you a short example, because yesterday I was going through the report of the Ukraine Central Bank, which are delivered on the daily basis to the World Bank, which is supporting the Ukraine economy, and it looks very professional. It's really like the letter of intent is perfect, and the data is really comprehensive, and I think that is going to happen like institution after institution. But as the money is like going to the central bank of Ukraine, the quality is there. So I'm really optimistic.
Thank you so much. And Tomasz, please.
So to sum up, and thanks for all questions. In my opinion, local businesses is the faster driver on increased GDP, and help local governments by paying taxes. So local businesses is only one good way to reconstruction of the Ukraine. We would like to encourage Ukrainian citizens to set up new businesses, and in that way we will create multi-level cooperation. But on the other hand, reforms are very hard work. Big changes are made from the small local cities in a small city, and we should involve a lot of citizens to be part of that change, that reforms, and people are very, very important. So we should encourage all refugees to return to Ukraine and prepare the young generation to study at the best global university, and after that go back to Ukraine and work for rebuilding of the country. Thanks.
Tomasz, thank you so much. It's time to wrap up our panel. We've discussed about rebuilding of Ukraine and recovery of Ukraine, treating as a new opportunity also for the country. We've talked about the importance of vision, financing, and people as a prerequisite for all the processes related to recovery. We underline the importance of coordination of works of different institutions, dialogue, but also dialogue, and generally speaking, we were optimistic regard the future. Dear audience, thank you all for your participation, for your input, for your comments, for your questions. Let me express special thanks to the panelists for interesting and inspiring statements. Our panelists were Danko, Professor of International Business at National Technical University in Kharkiv. Taras, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much to all of you. Yeah, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you. We really appreciate your presence. Thank you very much, Marcin Kościński, Executive Director in ING Bank. Thank you for your presence. I would like to thank you also Michał Kucharczyk, Deputy Director in Polish Agency for Investment and Trade. Thank you. And we are also grateful to Tomasz Prucnal, CFO of Erkado, for your presence and your input. Thank you all, and let's continue our discussion.
Yeah, thank you. When I see you and observe, so I noticed that university is not that institution. So, but now everybody needs a break. So 10 minutes, and we are starting a next session. So if you do not finish coffee, you can bring them. But be careful, Elizabeth. Thank you.